I see.
So reducing, I think, the number of times that people can go up to the court because of stable jurisprudence would make it easier for
And that
everyone.
also means a lot more backroom work, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
before it actually gets
Yeah.
to the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
justices. What about, well, this one is an interesting thing. For you, aside from you were, I guess part of the reason the Supreme Court would have wanted you is that you're young, you're active on social media, you're active with new technology. So these are reforms you are helping push through. What kind of
Yes.
advocacy, what kind of support do you have?
Yeah. Well, definitely in terms of the PIO, which I'm heading now, the traditional role of the PIO is really to brief the public,
To the public
about what a
about-
court does.
Okay.
And I still do that. But I think what I bring to the table is an understanding of how media is able to use the various tools at its disposal to be able to get information from the court and to make it more publicly accessible. I think I also have a reasonably accurate pulse of what media is writing about and what people are talking about. So that's what I bring to the table. And what I do now is basically ensure that when the court promulgates a decision, that media is able to have access to it as quickly as they can, and that they are able to have the basis to write as accurately as they can, as completely as they can, given the limitations of the court's systems and processes.
Right.
You must realize that when the court decides
Right.
a case, there is a process where in the court all the justices have to sign, it is
Right.
finalized. That's before the decision can be actually released. And it does take some time.
Right.
So from that point, from the point that they vote until the point that it is decided, that's where people don't know what's going on, and people hear about it. People have no way of confirming it. So, and that's where the uncertainty lies. That's
And we
where
will
a lot
badger
of
everyone.
that's where a lot of the errors come in
Yes,
terms
yes.
of reporting. And to my mind, there is an interest on the part of the court to ensure also that media is able to report accurately and
Correct.
completely, because the people find out
Yes.
accurate and complete information. And so one of the things that I've really been doing is I've asked the court, through the Chief Justice, basically to give me an idea of what they decide as quickly as I can get them. And
Interesting.
I've been able to get feedback on the cases that they decide as soon as they decided. And we've been able to devise a system where we're able to give the media an idea of what the case is and give them a complete and accurate account of the case even before it is actually promulgated. Because once it is released, then that's it.
Right, right.
So that's the first.
And
Yeah.
doing that actually helps ensure that that first wave isn't uninformed.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And then the second, of course, is that I think, well, primarily because of my own biases in terms of working with social media, working with the internet, because it's really a lot faster.
Yes.
So we intend to do a lot more using the web page of the court. We intend to put in a lot more information there,
Interesting.
a lot more content. We intend to make it a very useful tool for media as well as the public. Right now, we're tweaking the web page. There are minor changes that are there, which you will see. For one, we intend to continue the podcasts, the airing of the oral arguments. As soon as they are done, we upload the audio transcripts. That's to allow people.
Interesting.
That's to
Yeah,
allow
yeah.
people to
To
hear
hear it
to hear the
themselves.
questions
Yes,
and
yes.
answers, to be able to, for media to be able to report as well. To
Would
be
you
able to live.
open them to live streaming or?
Well, live streaming, that's an issue that's still, I think, that's a live issue
Yes.
that the court is discussing.
Okay.
But as far as audio recordings is concerned, we've done that for the
And you can
cybercrime.
release it. Yeah, correct.
Cybercrime law, and I think for the next orals, we'll be doing that as well. We've also done, in relation to the cybercrime and the party list cases, we've also done summaries of the petitions. We would do that if the case involves complex issues, or there are a lot of petitions. In the cybercrime case, there were 15 petitions, many
Yes,
issues were
correct,
raised.
correct.
So it would be very difficult for the public as well as the media to find out what exactly are they talking about.
Right.
For the party list cases, there are over 50 petitions. involved.
Right.
So we said the best way really is to summarize the petitions
Streamline.
and
Yes,
put
yes.
them on the page. So you can go to the page, you can click on the microsites, you'll see the summaries. We'll be doing that as well for the cases that are, you know, involved, complex,
Correct.
that involve multiple parties or are up for oral arguments. So, and then maybe, because again of my biases as a professor before, I think we'll be doing a lot more in terms of educating people about what the court really does.
Right.
Processes, and then explaining the rules indirectly, meaning coming up with helpful articles, coming up with helpful analysis, not from me, not from the PIO, but from, you know, from people who can really contribute. So that's what we'll be doing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You brought up the cybercrime law. Now, as the PIO of the Supreme Court, there are several things you can't do. You can't practice law
Yes.
anymore.
Yeah.
You used to do, you were the Free Legal Assistance Group. I mean,
Yeah.
these are all things that you won a TOIM award for the work that you were
Yeah.
doing. Cybercrime law, you were a petitioner
Yes.
in one of those 15
Yes,
cases.
yes.
How did that change? How does that change that case? And then how does this change your career?
Well, definitely I miss practice. I do. Okay, but there is a different thrill to doing this type of work. It's challenging, but it's exciting as well. In terms of the cybercrime law, the impact, of course, is personal because I did craft a petition. I was
Right.
part of the 15 who filed petitions before the court.
Yes, we signed.
in terms of
Just
the,
full disclosure,
yes,
we signed
yes,
the petition.
so in terms of the impact, when I was
Yes.
listening to the oral arguments, I was arguing with myself when I was listening to the justices ask the questions, and I was asking myself, how would I have answered that question if that question had been asked? So that's something that I'll have to get used to, as far as cases wherein I would have a more vocal participation. Right now, I'd have to keep my opinions to myself first until the case is decided, and I can't say it as freely as I would have.
Yes.
But I think in terms of the work I do, it's a different type of excitement.
So you're opting, instead of pushing for change from the outside, you've decided change from within.
We're trying to do it from the inside, yeah.
And how? So it's 3 months in. How would you gauge it?
Well,
so
it's a bit
far?
slow, of course,
Yes.
because there's a learning curve in terms of understanding the institution itself. Having come from the outside, okay, there's always a learning curve, and because again, the court as an institution is a
Yes.
conservative institution. There are traditions there that have been there for many years.
Yes.
And so for me, that's part of the things I have to do. I have to understand many of the traditions, understand the context from which the traditions have come from, and try to see, and as much as possible work within established parameters first.
Right.
See if we can expand the parameters, if the parameters can be expanded, see what we can do with the existing parameters. So that's where a lot of the time that's where I spend a lot of my time, trying to think of ways to work with what I can't change, see what I can push for in terms of changes, and see what else I can dream of.
Interesting.
I can tell you, I've pitched a lot of ideas to the chief, and she's been open to a lot of the ideas.
How do you know? Well, this sounds like you need the serenity prayer, right? You basically said it a little
Yeah.
bit, but how do you know what tradition is there that just should be thrown out because it was in an age that is over? And how do you know that that this reform needs to happen now, like the using the new technology to move things faster?
Well,
how do you know?
One, I think in terms of acceptability, if
Yes.
the public accepts it, I think that's one very reliable gauge. Okay, because if from my point of view, if it brings the public to a better understanding of what the court does, then it's effective for me. And if it doesn't, then I would probably make a strong pitch to say, can we modify this a little?
Yes.
So, for example, the PIO was created during a time when print was everything.
Correct.
And print is slowly but surely, well, if I can use the word, dying.
Yes.
So
We use it.
yeah. So
We're not
so we have to change.
Yes.
The PIO has to change.
Yes.
The court will also have to look at it very differently. So we're now going more social media, more on the web. Okay, established institutions. Newsweek has gone online.
Online
no?
completely.
So that's how I know that, for example, the people outside are relying more and more online than
Right.
going to the print
Right.
media. So for me, that's where the balance comes in. So for example, when the oral arguments for the cybercrime law were held, I said the best way really is for people not to wait for whatever report comes
Right.
out. Let them hear it for themselves.
Yes.
We asked permission, they gave permission, we uploaded it, and people have really been learning and understanding the court. So
Fantastic.
to some extent, that's a level of transparency as far as this court is concerned, because they hear the voices of the
Correct,
justices.
correct.
As far as the justices are concerned, the questions are there. They're
Yes.
well, they're immortalized essentially.
Right.
Okay, so that's one level of transparency I think that we've been able to do.